I want what you have, and I'm willing to go to any length to get it. And what you have is the fellowship that I crave, and the fellowship I crave is where people can be content, match calamity with serenity, and are happy, joyous, and free.
Well, hello, friends of Bill W. and other friends. You have landed on Sober Speak. My name is John M. I am an alcoholic, and we are glad you're all here, especially newcomers. Newcomers, that is, both to recovery as a whole and newcomers to this podcast. Sober Speak is a podcast about recovery centered around the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. My job here on Sober Speak is simple. My job is to provide a platform to the amazing stories of recovery all around us. Consider Sober Speak, if you will, your meeting between meetings. Please remember, we do not speak for AA or any 12-step community. We represent only ourselves. We are here to share our experience, strength, and hope with those who wish to come along for the ride. Take what you want and leave the rest at the curb for the trash man to pick up. Hello, you blokes and you Shaylas. That was the voice of Miss Julia K. from Berlin, Germany, that you heard at the beginning of this episode, on this here episode number 186. Can you believe it? 186 of Sober Speak, and you will be hearing much more from Julia K. in un momento, but first things first. This episode is brought to you by Ernie B. and Tanya. Do you know what Ernie B. and Tanya did? Well, let me fill you in. They went to our website, soberspeak.com. They clicked on the PayPal tab, and they made a contribution out of the generosity of their heart to keep the virtual lights on. So thank you, Ernie B. and Tanya. This episode is coming right out to you'ns. I, John M., just another bozo on the bus like you folks, will be the chairperson for this meeting between meetings, and I am so honored and privileged to serve all of you listening in. So take a seat, a virtual seat, if you will, around this virtual table, and let's get started. Remember, no matter who you are and what your past looks like, you are welcome here. It is an open table, and we are glad you are all here. What do I want to talk about this week? Just a couple things. Number one, if you haven't joined us on Recovery Yoga yet, for free, every Sunday afternoon at 4:00 p.m. Central, you are more than welcome to join us. Just go to soberspeak.com and click on the Sober Resources tab, and all of the Zoom info will be there for you to log in. Remember now, on Facebook, things have changed up with us. Just search for Super Secret. Well, actually, just search for, what would we call it? Secret Facebook group inside of Facebook. And there is a thing in there that says, can I join? Will you approve me? And just click on that and we'll get you approved to get in the group. And if you are in the North Texas area, keep in mind we have a meeting on Saturday at noon in Frisco, Texas. It is an open discussion meeting. All are welcome. It is not a closed meeting. You do not have to be an alcoholic to attend the meeting. And once again, if you go to www.soberspeak.com, click on the Sober Resources tab, and all of that information is available for you. Now, on to Ms. Julia K. And this is the second part, or a follow-up conversation that we had with Julia K. Her first episode is episode number 172, and it is called The Prodigal Daughter, and you'll want to go back and catch that at some point if you haven't listened to that yet. But this is our follow-up conversation with Julia as part 2, and we're calling this one Masters of Love, and she talks about that in the episode. Julia discusses abortion. She discusses marriage, divorce, infidelity, and we have a most interesting discussion about her mother that died via euthanasia in Belgium while Julia was at her side, and I was very interested in that whole process. We discussed the subjects of Limitless Expansion, Masters of Love, which I've already referenced, and the Miracle Makers of Modern Time. I love that phrase. Julia refers to herself as an AA slut in a positive way. You'll have to hear her talk about that. And she says that her totem animal, which I've also heard referred to as a spirit animal, is the cockroach. I thought that was just absolutely fantastic. So everybody, buckle up, enjoy the ride. And without further ado, I present to you Julia K. Enjoy. I will have some listener feedback at the end of this episode. Okay, everybody. So we are back again with Miss Julia K. from, well, why don't you go ahead and tell them where you are from, Miss Julia K., and give your sobriety date if you wish as well, please.
Hello, wonderful John from Sober Speak and wonderful listeners all over the world of the recovery community. My name is Julia K. and I'm an alcoholic and many other things from Berlin, Germany. My sobriety date is September 23rd, 1985. I am 55 years young and I got sober when I was 20 and I haven't had a drink or drug or any mood-altering chemicals from ever since. And I've been AA... I said that. I had been an AA slut, but I'm not allowed to say that. But I have been an AA aficionista, a passionate AA member ever since.
And I got a feeling some people may have missed that term that you just used. Last time we got together, you talked about being you called it a more slut, but then you just used the term an AA slut. Why don't you go ahead just real quickly and kind of explain that?
You know, we're
phrase.
right in the middle of it. We're right in the middle. There's this wonderful book out for young people and for anybody interested in doing their sexual inventory. It's not AA conference approved literature, but it's a wonderful book. It's called The Ethical Slut. It puts the word slut in a positive light. I am an AA slut in the sense of I will be anywhere where there's AA. I'll go where AA goes. I'll go. I'll go to the Bill Wilson House. I'll go to Central Office in New York many times. I'll go to Founders Day in Akron. I'll go to Dr. Bob's house. I'll go to wherever there's a AA, wherever AA people go, I will go, and I will make sure that I get fed, which is not hard in Alcoholics Anonymous because you get more than fed when you show up. So this is my thing. I'm a hungry girl. I'm never stop being hungry. This is why one of my topics today is limitless expansion, because I wake up and I am hungry and God has my back. He knows I'm not like, oh no, I'm not hungry anymore. Man, I'm hungry and I'm dissatisfied and God has to provide. So this is why he gives me this wonderful program where there is more than enough for me, because my soul has starved for so many years before I started using and drinking especially, but of course during those using years and drinking years where I was completely starved of love. And I am hungry, man. I have to make it up to. And it's fun to be hungry, but it's fun to be hungry and to be satiated. It's fun to be hungry and to know today my table is set, my cup runneth over, and when I'm done eating and I'm hungry again tomorrow, there's going to be more food and more delicious food. And so basically this is why I take the word slut in this positive way, is that I'm hungry. I'm not like, no, I'm not hungry anymore. That's not true. I just want it. I hope it never stops, because it's fun to be hungry and to be sure whatever I bring to the table, whatever problem, whatever hunger, somebody in AA is going to tell me where to go and where to get what I need to get. So this is the one. This is why I say this is the fairy tale that they tell you about in your childhood. This is how do you say Aschenputtel? The one with the when this is Aschenputtel is the one, the one where the squash becomes
I wish I could
transformed
bail
into
you
a
out.
carriage. Yeah, the one
Cinderella?
Cinderella, yeah, Cinderella. This is where this is the prince. I mean, there's always the prince might not always look like you expect him or her to look, the princess. But man, your prince is coming. In Alcoholics Anonymous, and it will always be more than you thought. If, and this is the half measures avail us nothing. It's so important to know that this is true. You see people, so many people with half measures in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it makes the most boring meetings and the most terrible sober people because they're just not happy. So what's the use of going through all this insane act of getting sober if I'm not going to get the cherry on the cake and the whipped cream and the chocolate and everything that AA has to offer and the promises, which there are many, especially in the 9th step? There's no use. So I want what you have, and I'm willing to go to any length to get it. And what you have is the fellowship that I crave, and the fellowship I crave is where people can be content, match calamity with serenity, and are happy, joyous, and free. Not in the sense that I'm high all the time, not a Prozac sort of, oh, so everything. No, because I was talking to, and you will interrupt me, but I was talking to a newcomer called me yesterday. She wants to do her 4th step, and she wants to make amends to her difficult father. And she has heard through the grapevine that I'm a specialist for difficult and evil parents. Especially my mother was an evil person. God bless her. I'm in peace with her. But because AA gave me the possibility to transform viciousness into love, so I could love her, and I could transform every inch of viciousness I've transformed in love, but not because I'm so great. It's because you taught me. So where was I? She was telling me, I was telling her, you will make amends to your father, but he will not change, and that was super difficult for her to comprehend. It doesn't mean that your dad is going to be nice to you. It doesn't mean that he's ever going to be nice to you. It doesn't mean that he's ever not going to be an asshole like you see. But what it means is that you're going to be in peace with it, and you're going to forgive him. And this is a different. So the discomfort, alcoholics don't like discomfort. So we want everything to be like a fairy tale. But we have to understand that the fairy tale is not going to be with our parents. Sometimes we're lucky it is with our parents, but it doesn't have to. You understand what I mean? My mom made me cry the day before her death. I was telling my mom, you're making me cry and you're dying tomorrow, because she did this euthanasia thing. So he said, Mama, you're going to die tomorrow and you're still making me cry. And she said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm so bad. I said, yeah, you're terrible, but I love you, Mommy. And so, but she, you understand what I say? The discomfort of not fixing it, that making amends doesn't mean that you're going to be nice to me if I make amends to you. If I'm lucky, you will. But if I'm unlucky, you might throw me out and say, I never want to see you again. And that's fine, because I've done my part.
So we, for out of respect for the traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't do video or images with any of the podcasts that we do here. But this is one of those times, Julia, if everybody, you are so enthusiastic, you're so animated, your hands are all over the place, you're rocking back and forth. I wish that we could actually post the video of this. It would be absolutely delightful. And by the way, you have the longest introductions of any of the guests that I've ever had on the podcast. I just kind of turn it over and I say, hey, you want to introduce yourself and give your sobriety date if you wish, and then 7-8 minutes later we're taking a breath. And I absolutely love it, and that's why I wanted to have you back, because you have unbridled enthusiasm for Alcoholics Anonymous, for recovery as a whole, and I just absolutely loved our time. Now, just so listeners know, If this is the first episode you're listening and you possibly want to hear more of Julia, we actually had Julia on an episode before. Oh, and I got to get to this real quick. And it was we called this one, excuse me. Oh, The Prodigal Daughter. It was kind of a takeoff on, the prodigal son. And we talked about how Julia learned to speak English in Alcoholics Anonymous. Julia's kind of a Joe and Charlie of Alcoholics Anonymous in Germany. She takes the book, she explains it, she dissects it. They're kind of rewriting the book there in Germany to make it
not rewriting, not rewriting,
yeah,
retranslating it to make it more
retranslating. Yeah, I'm sorry, I said that in the wrong way.
Oh my God!
Right, so they're translating it from. It's been translated in the past, but they're going through that again to make it a little bit more what they think is true to form of what Bill and the other writers meant on the front end. We talked about your anorexia, your sleeping disorder, your Valium, the diet pills, the depressions, bulimia, and a lot more. So if any of you want to hear Julia's first episode, go back to that. And oh gosh, I don't have the episode number in front of me, but it's probably like 6 or 7 episodes back, something like that. So, but today we got together and we said, let's just let God lead this and guide this. One of the things that I wanted to go back to, first of all, you mentioned there just real briefly that your mother went through a euthanasia type of a process. Can you talk about that a little bit and how that came down? And was that in Germany?
No, it's illegal in Germany. It was in Belgium, and it's legal in Belgium. There was a legal process, and she had a very bad cancer of the pancreas, and the doctors offered her to do palliative treatment, which entailed chemo and other stuff, and she wasn't interested because she had had a breast cancer 5 years ago, and she knew chemo and she hated it. And my mom always, ever since I've known her, has had a longing to die, and she's always told us that she will go when she says. And so she was delighted in a way. There was a part of her that was delighted that she could finally go. And she was not a happy woman. She was a lonely woman, which isn't surprising because she was so mean to people. But she was, she was born in 1940. That was during the war. These people born in these war years in Germany had horrible traumas in their childhood, the hunger after the war. They had had their own package to carry. And I have many sponsees, German women that I sponsor that have similar moms. Those moms that are just hard and that have just decided to close up. And so I'm not angry at my mom. I love her. My mom is the love of my life. And I knew that the moment she died. I knew it before, but it made clear the moment she died and I went outside. I was with her, and she knew she could count on me, which was the greatest responsibility, the greatest gift, is that she trusted me completely. Even though I wasn't easy because I caught her on her, I was not a doormat like it says in the book. And when she was evil and mean to me, I was always the little girl, and I was always hurt. But I was.
Was there anybody else? Was there anybody else there during the process besides yourself?
The doctor was there, and my little sister came. But my little sister disappeared really quick. She is very caught up. She's very still caught up in her anger towards my mom, and I think she just came to check that my mom would really die because she hadn't seen her in 10 years. And so that was another story. And I walked out of the house, and mom had passed finally. It wasn't easy for her to die because she wanted to die, but it was a battle. because she had decided she would die at 12, but she died at 2, so I'm not going to get into that. But it's interesting that death told her, no, no, girl, I'm telling you when you go. You're not telling me when you're going to go. She was a little too healthy still to go. She had a very strong heart and very strong liver. But I went outside and she had finally passed, and I had been by her side, which was a great honor and a privilege. It was an honor and a privilege not to get angry, not to be dramatic, to be soft, and to be sad. And then I went outside, and you know what, John? All the colors had washed away. I looked at the garden, and all the colors were gone. And I told my sister was still there. I said, "Look around you. Our world is never going to be the same again because our mother is gone." And it was really an eerie moment. And then I went back inside, and the house had completely lost its grip. She had a grip on the house. And all of a sudden, the house was breathing. And I took a picture of my mom on her deathbed. And my mom was a proud woman. Even in the minute before she died, I had taken a picture before she went for the euthanasia. And she was still looking proud and almost a little mean. But the picture of her just after she died was very soft, very young, and there was almost a look of surprise on her face. And she had never believed in God, because she was certain that after, when you die, there's nothing, and she wanted there to be nothing. And she insisted that there were nothing, because I told her before, "Mom, give me a sign when you're over there and let me know." And she said, "There's no sign." I said, "Well, you don't know. Maybe you can give me a sign anyway." But the look on her face was a look of surprise, and it wasn't a look of horrified surprise. There was a look of happy surprise, as if she saw something that she didn't expect it, like an angel or maybe even God. And it was really wonderful. Anyway, that's the story.
We will be continuing our conversation with Julia Kay from Berlin, Germany in just a moment. Just a reminder, you are listening to Sober Speak. You can find us on the World Wide Web at soberspeak.com. You can also find the donate button on our website, which you can use if and only if the Spirit moves you to do such. Please keep in mind this is a podcast funded by you, the listener. Sober Speak is a self-supporting organization through our own contributions. We are not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. We do not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorse nor oppose any causes. All right, now back to Miss Julia Kay. So you are somebody that I know when I come into a conversation with them, it cannot be scripted. And as you could tell, we just go, which I love. All right. It goes all over the place. Had no idea that we were going to cover your mom's death. But I do think it greatly dovetails into recovery and the world of recovery and Alcoholics Anonymous in the steps. And it is just living life. And there's many people who would think, gosh, I could never go through an experience like that and stay sober, not act out in some way. Right. But here you sit today. How many years sober were you when you actually went through that experience, Julia?
That was just a few months ago. That was just last summer.
Oh.
So yeah, I was 35 years sober.
Wow. That's incredible. All right, so let's talk about another term that you brought up during the beginning of this. You talked about limitless expansion. And I know that that's something that you have talked about in the past. What do you mean when you say limitless expansion? What does that mean to you?
Back to the hunger and to the limitless expansion is the assurance that, and it gives it to me in the book, that there's always more for me in this program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I've never arrived. I'm always a beginner. When Bill W. talks to us in We Agnostics, he makes sure that anybody can enter the realm of the Spirit, because he keeps telling us in We Agnostics, you can start where you're at. Where you're at is enough. deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. The only place to find God is deep inside you. It says also that we are to be catapulted in the fourth dimension of existence, and that and we become catapulted in the realm that where, I'm paraphrasing, where we things keep getting better and better. I like, because they have this old saying in AA where they say either you grow or you go. I don't want to sound like um, you know, uh, yeah, if you know, like this a little this dramatic, but there is a this. I'm so interested in the concept of progress, and because I've been sober quite a while, and because I can look back and don't, I can assure you that it never feel like I'm progressing when I'm actually progressing. But I can see the progress over the years, of course, looking back. And I can assure anyone who's sober and is doing their steps and who's reaching out and they're doing their service and they're, they're confronting their pain. There's nothing more worthwhile than working on myself. And that's what the program is about, is working on myself. And there's nothing that I don't want to look at in my life. There's nothing I don't want to look at because I'm interested in love and nothing else. And I know that love is so powerful that it can heal any condition and it can break any barriers and it can move any mountain. But I'm still just at the beginning because I want to be a master of love. That's all I'm interested in, and I want to be better at it and better because um, it feels it's it feels so right. Let me tell very practical. I don't want to be too in the clouds. Our head in the clouds, but our feet on the ground. I was I was I have two sons. I've told that in the other podcast. One is 20 and one is 18, and they're sober babies. And I assure you, they're less damaged than drunk babies. So alcoholism is damaging because they have a very healthy substance. Even though I'm very dangerous sober, but at least I can make amends. I'm more dangerous because I can be super evil and hard sober, but I have a program and I make amends. And so there was just recently, their dad left me. He was an AA wonder, boy meets girl on AA campus, and I got pregnant by accident. Thank God. God knew that I was ready for kids, but not ready for relationships yet. So I got accident. And then I already had two abortions, so there's no way I could have a third one. And because I was too old, and I wanted kids. But I knew that this guy in AA, he was nice, but I thought of felt that wasn't the substance we needed to have a dad. But anyway, so he left us when the kids were very small, and he went back out, and he had many years where he used again, and because of the program, and because of the Women in Alcoholics Anonymous, I managed for the kids to keep a relationship with him. And even though he was very damaged, but there was a way of just, I never said, no, you can't see your father or anything, because I thought that was not a good idea. Because if you forbid your children to be their father, they will long for the father. They will make him big and he'll become Superman. And then they will hate you for keeping you away from them. So women, don't do it. Even if the father is using, if you're sober, it's okay, because they need to see it. And it's not, I was protecting them from the worst. There was one time where we was in the hospital and he was attached to, they had to attach him to the bed. And then that's where I said, no, you're not going to go see your dad at the hospital. I'm not, so but I'm sober, so I can make these decisions with love. Anyway, he's sober. Finally, he's sober, which we never thought. We thought he was going to die, but miraculously he got sober, and he's around, and he's a good man, and women, when you hate the father of your children, I'm telling you this, 20 years later, he's my best buddy, and he was the man that I hated the most, and he was the most Because he left me to have sex with some idiot. And then he had sex with another idiot, and then he had sex with a third idiot, and that's what he left me for. And then he lost himself in drugs and alcohol. So it was like, why? You could have stayed with me. It would have been much less painful and better for your children. Anyway, but this man is somebody who today, before, even before, when there's a crisis hitting in my life, he calls me before I realize there's a crisis and said, "You want to have a coffee? I'm worried about you." That's love. That's love. He's got 2 years, but that's the kind of connection we have. And so we were driving. My husband is in Thailand right now because he's sick. He's too COVID. He's COVID too much at risk with COVID, and Thailand is COVID free. He's got a lung condition, and so this guy's hanging out a lot, and which to the delight of the children. And we take our son to the airport the other day. He was going back to America where he's studying, and we're not going to see him for maybe 9 months, maybe a year. And it's very early in the morning, and we drive him through Berlin. Our son is sitting in the back, me in the passenger seat, and the father of my children driving. And there's the most loving, sad, beautiful atmosphere in the car. There's no bills. There were no bills to be paid anymore. It's all good. We were just congruent with our feelings. It was sad because we were bringing our son to the airport, but there was so much love, and there was so much peace, and to be that kind of parents, because I come from a household where there's only misunderstanding, shaming, anger, fights, drama, accusation, victimization, hurt. That's all I know. And I'm in this car, and there's only love. And to be able to give this to a child is giving him like golden wings with diamonds on top, and they're light, they're not even heavy, because this child can fly anyway. And I knew it at that moment. And do I make this? No. It's AA. It's this program of Alcoholics Anonymous. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous is a program of keeping myself, my ego, my alcoholic ego, on very tight reins. And I love the tight reins of Alcoholics Anonymous because I'm a wild horse. I'm like, whoa, I'm a bulldozer. I'm a tornado who roars through people's lives, but with the tight rein of service of the newcomer. Somebody was saying on a speaker tape the other day, we used to take in drunks to sober up on our couch. I still do it in Berlin. Because I do it, then all the women I sponsor do it, and all the guys that see that the women do it. I have people drying out on my couch regularly because this is what we do. Because then I get to have this kind of freedom with my children, or this kind of freedom in my job, or this kind of freedom with my husband, or this kind of freedom with my life. Does that make sense? That's a long.
It does make sense. Yeah, you kind of remind me of like the Mother Teresa of AA, just kind of talking to you here and about how involved we are. It's absolutely wonderful.
And there's one thing about the Bible, because we talked about the prodigal daughter. I've figured out, when Jesus says, pick up your bed and go. He sees this guy who's sick, and then he goes he heals him, and then he goes pick up your bed and go. I thought, this is so deep, because he doesn't say leave your bed and go. No, you pick up your baggage, you come here, and this is I take responsibility for all my life, and in step 9, I face this bed that I carry, and I transformed it. But you know what I mean? He doesn't say leave your bed and you're free. No. Take your baggage and clean house and make amends, and then you will be free. Isn't it great? I love it.
I love it too. You also talked, I've heard you talk in the past about how miracle makers
Yes.
we are miracle makers of modern time. And I think the reference is into Alcoholics Anonymous. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, of course. There was a French author. His name is Joseph Kessel, that Americans don't know, but he was a French journalist, and in the 50s he heard about Alcoholics Anonymous, and he went to New York to the Bowery, and he studied Alcoholics Anonymous, and he did a very decent and sober report in French on Alcoholics Anonymous, and he called Alcoholics Anonymous the miracle makers of modern times, the miracle makers of the 20th century. And the age of miracles is still with us, because what happens when we work these steps, which, when Roland H. came to Bill W., to Carl Jung, to the doctor, to the Swiss psychoanalyst, and Carl Jung said, I have been trying to make you have a spiritual awakening which will change your whole personality so you won't have to want to drink anymore, but I've failed. And then Roland went back and tried the Oxford group, and then he met Ebby, and Ebby came to Bill, and Bill went to Bob, and Bob took the 6th step of the Oxford group, and Bill made 12 out of the 6 steps. And and Carl Jung says these spiritual awakenings are phenomena, means that they're not, you can't make them happen. You don't have control whether it happens or not. You can try, but you're sort of trying in the dark. What Bill did with the 12 steps and the early AAs, but it was mainly Bill, he designed 12 steps for guaranteed miracles. And you need a sponsor, and a sponsor who knows how to work the steps. And you need to just do the work, especially the 9th step. And then you can, those miracle of being able to heal a very sick family, because we're not only healing ourselves, we're healing our tribe, and not the AA tribe, which talks about in the book, when in the beautiful story, Join the Tribe, that we heal our tribe, our blood family. Because as we start this recovery process, then others in our family can begin to heal too. And we can stop the horrible curse of alcoholism in our bloodline. And there's nothing that's more worthwhile than stopping generations of alcoholism and of bad treatment of children, which is what alcoholism is.
Yeah, I've heard it been put before that we are fortunate enough, folks like you and me, to have been born within this window of history where alcoholics do have, as you know, the original title of the book was going to be A Way Out,
right,
or The Way Out. And we have we're fortunate enough, like I said, that we were born in this window of time. And gosh, if I had been born at another point in history, I'm sure they just would either lock me up or put me in an insane asylum, or I would have been sure to have an early death. And
John, 1935, when AA started in America, there was the NS time in Germany, and alcoholics were considered the asocials, and they had a purple star, and they were put to death. Alcoholics in extermination camps. The Nazis were just like homosexual Jews and others, but alcoholics were just useless. So that's not so long ago. And today, I mean, I don't die easily because I'm like a cockroach. Have I told you that my totem animal, people go like, oh, my totem animal is the wolf or the elk or the Leo or whatever. I'm saying my totem animal is the cockroach, because I don't die, which is my best. This is the best, my biggest asset. I came to AA and I said, oh my God, when they said many of us drink if they have the capacity on it, and it goes on, and I'm like, man, I don't care. I'm just going to sit here, and I'm just not going to go anywhere until my miracle happens. And I don't care how long it takes. I'm 20. I've got time. I don't care. And I'm a cockroach. I don't die easy. I'm like the cockroach when you try to kill them in your kitchen and you think you have them. You even broke their wings. And then they come back. It's like, what? You're still here. I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. And as long as I have the desire to stop drinking, and I'm not drinking, you can't throw me out. I claim my seat. You can't throw me out anywhere in the world at any AA meeting. I can claim my seat and say I belong here. You can't throw me out. And you're not better than me, by the way. I love it. There's some AA. That's some AA meetings are like they're special. There's like, oh, I'm special AA meeting with better working. It's not true. You're just AA.
That's right. Hey, Julia, this has been absolutely fantastic. Just like last time, I knew it'd be a wild ride.
Yes.
And I love the wild ride. And like I said, I love your enthusiasm. I love your perspective. I think you do an absolutely wonderful job of carrying the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm just so glad that our paths have crossed. Do you know if you're going to be coming to the U.S. anytime soon for any sort of conferences or anything like that?
As soon as I can. I want to go. My son. I have to visit my son because as soon as we have a vaccine or borders reopen, I have to visit my son. I have to visit my sponsor, who is Kathy Lovett, who lives in Oceanside, California, who has celebrated 42 years of sobriety. This past week, I have to go and see all my friends. I have to go, of course, to the World Conference, but that's only in 4 years. We have to wait. But I want to go again. They have a yearly convention about archives, about archive people, and they talk about a history. I want to go. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I love to go to meetings in some forlorn desert places. I love to go to the hip meetings. I love to go to not so hip meetings.
What are those? The hip meetings? What's that?
Oh, downtown New York, where we really work the steps on.
Oh, the hip meetings. Okay,
hip
I got you. Yeah.
But they're great. I mean, they're great. There's really great sobriety. But I love you go to Harlem in the meetings, and they still have food for everybody.
Huh. I didn't
know that. You go to Harlem, yes, like it used to be, because some people don't have anything to eat. So you go to Harlem, and there's food and there's fellowship because you can come earlier and you can play cards like it used to be. And afterwards, you can never not eat because everybody takes you out for dinner. Harlem is great. Or whatever. I've been in Africa. A loner picked me up in Rhodesia to go to a meeting. I was in Kenya in meetings, and it's I love Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah.
There's I think we're about to have one of our first conferences where it's a live conference, people coming back together at the Texas State Conference coming up here in June. And so I'm looking forward to seeing some people, and things are starting to get back to kind of sort of normal. And so anyway, I hope our paths do cross though here in the U.S. or if I'm over in Germany.
Who knows? We've been through Zoom. We've met a lot of Americans who speak very good German, and we've had fantastic German-speaking Americans at our Zoom meetings carrying the message. And it's of course we also are carrying the message in America, but there's so many people whose German is really excellent because they've studied or they've been in the army or whatever. And there's been through Zoom, there's been a brotherhood and a sisterhood being built and being weaved around. It's like a fabric of love being weaved around our planet, and our planet needs a fabric of love being weaved around it, and the children need it. And so Yeah, it's really, really amazing. And I was at the International Women's Conference recently, and usually this conference gets 2,000 people. It's live. You know how many people they had?
I
They
heard
put
like
it on Zoom.
20,000.
Yes,
Yeah.
20,000.
Isn't that something?
Did you hear of it?
I heard about it. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't there. I'm
No,
not
of
a
course
woman,
not.
but
Obviously.
I heard about it. It was good.
Can you imagine? They had women, especially they had a lot of women from Africa who could never dream of attending such a conference, but
Oh,
because
that's very nice.
AA in Africa, I mean, it's just starting, and there's no place in the world where they need more. I mean, of course, Russia too, because everybody. I mean, it's like, but every AA is needed everywhere, and it's just in infancy shoes in Africa because I mean, they start drinking there when they're 4 because there's so much poverty.
uh, Page 164 from the big book. And it says, abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us, like me and Miss Julia,
Yes.
as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Thank you so much again, Julia. I really appreciate you coming on and visiting with me today.
Thank you. It's an honor and it's a pleasure. And thank you for your work, John. It's really important and it's really beautiful.
And vice versa. Likewise, Miss Julia. You take care now. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thank you again, Julia K. from Berlin, Germany. Once again, it was fantastic spending time with you. You have such great energy, and I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to record with me twice. It is most appreciated. Now, on to a little bit of listener feedback. Steve, well, this is not really listener feedback. This is from our secret Facebook group. Steve, in there, I call him our daily reflections guy. I don't know what else to call him, but he is in there all the time posting. I think it's on a daily basis. I've never gone back to see it, but he does an absolutely fantastic job. What he does is he puts a quote from the big book out there, and then he expands on it a little bit. And this is what he put in this week. He says, we are people, by the way, this is page 17 from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. He says, we are people who normally would not mix. But there exists among us a fellowship, a friendliness, and an understanding which is indescribably wonderful. Once again, that's page 17. I'll read it again. We are people here in Alcoholics Anonymous who would not normally mix, but there exists among us a fellowship, a friendliness, and an understanding which is indescribably wonderful. Page 17 of the big book. Thanks for putting that in there, Steve. And then Steve follows it up with some commentary. He says, we are all unique, various ages, colors, genders, backgrounds, different careers, education, financial status, but in two very important ways, we are exactly the same. We cannot use alcohol safely, and we share a common solution. Also, we connect in deep and meaningful ways, and we recover. And then he always ends it up there with help one, save two. Happy Saturday, he says. It's how he always ends up his writings. And thank you so much, Steve, for being part of the secret Facebook. Not being part of it. You are being a contributor, I should say, a very consistent contributor. I know I see the comments on your post, and I know a lot of people get a lot out of your writings, which you are putting in there. And I am so appreciative of you, as I know many others in the group are as well. Thank you so much. Susan writes in, and Susan says, hi, John. I am truly blessed to live in Vancouver, Canada, I put the A in there. She didn't really say A-E-H. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it is really as beautiful as all the pictures! Exclamation point. I have been sober for 31 years and still hear my first sponsor's words to me. The sponsor said, all you wanted when you got here was to be a sober woman in AA. All the rest is a gift from God. I have been given many gifts in my years, many wanted and some not. That's funny. Boy, do I get that, Susan. She says, I've struggled at times and still do. I have at times been willful, self-centered, angry, and resentful. What I have never done, though, is forget that I'm an alcoholic, and no matter how I feel, go to meetings, read the big book, and get a sponsor, and above all, pray. If I follow those things, it will all be okay one day at a time. That is so well said, Susan. Very well said. And I mean, it's like you're reading my mind and what I think about sobriety, because I've been all those things as well. Self-centered, angry, resentful. But one thing I've never forgotten up to this point is that I'm an alcoholic, and I've never struggled with going to meetings. That is just a blessing, and I know a lot of people do. Anyway, Susan says, during COVID, I, like so many, needed to find ways to stay in touch with AA. Your podcast is one of those ways for me. I appreciate you doing this and truly enjoy it. It's something magical happens when alcoholics come together. I agree, Susan. I have enjoyed many of your guests. Charlie P. is a favorite of mine, and June G. was amazing. Thank you and have a wonderful day, Susan. So I'm recording Charlie P here coming up soon again, and we'll be able to have him back on the pod again. But thank you so much, Susan. Ricky post in the secret Sober Speak Facebook group. He says, and this wasn't really to me, it was to the group. And he says, and he's quoting here from an episode by Matthew M. And Matthew M. said in his episode, he says, by amending our mistakes, we get wisdom. By defending our faults, we betray an unsound mind. Matthew M. Ricky says, breaks it down. I love this episode. Thanks, John M. and Matthew. Let me go ahead and read that quote again from Matthew, because I thought it's great. And it took me a couple times to kind of soak it in. So the quote is, by amending our mistakes, we get wisdom. By defending our faults, we betray an unsound mind. I love it. And I believe Matthew was actually quoting somebody else in that episode. And it was some philosopher, but I can't remember the name right now. But anyway, thanks, Matthew, and thank you, Ricky, for posting that. Finally, Linda writes in, and Linda says, hi, John, I didn't do rehab. I needed detox, medically supervised IV and all the withdrawal seizures that prevented me due to the IVP pushes they were giving me. I was going through a fifth of vodka every 2 days. I'm on day 12 of sobriety. Congratulations, Linda. And I found your podcast on Spotify when somebody directed me to Facebook. Oh, I get it. So I guess she found Sober Speak on Facebook and then went over to Spotify from there. But nonetheless, she says, I belong to an all-women's Zoom group that meets 7 days a week. Linda, congratulations once again on your 12 days. That's absolutely fantastic. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. I'm glad that myself and Sober Speak as a whole can be a small part of your journey in recovery. All right, everybody. Guess what? That wraps it up. I will most likely be back next week. Most likely. You never can tell, right? I take this 1 week at a time. God bless you. Love you guys. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.